welcome to another episode of Come Back Stronger, where we bring you stories of people who have overcome obstacles, injuries, setbacks, and challenges, and have come back stronger. And today, super excited to introduce you to Doe Zantamata, who has a really fascinating story of what I would call an awakening, and I can't wait for you to hear the story. Kimmy, you had the pleasure of interviewing Doe.
I did.
So, well, what did you think?
Oh, she's awesome. She's so easy to talk to. So Doe was a college student at Florida State University in the 90s, and she was studying biology. And then she has what she calls a near-death experience, where she got meningitis, ends up in the hospital, and then has this experience, which she describes in detail. It's really interesting. But basically, it changes her internally, and it sets her on a different path. She was always a creative person, wanted to do creative stuff, but she went the path of biology because she thought that's what she should do, right? Go be a doctor, that's what she should do. And so this really kind of opened up her mind and gave her the freedom to move towards a different path.
Well, what I love about it is what is actually typical in many, many comeback stories is you have to go down before you can come up.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is the deeper you go down, then the more power you have in coming up even higher. And in this case, she considers it a near-death experience. You don't go any deeper than death.
Sure.
And so here she is, but now she's come back and she's writing books. She has more than 4 million Facebook followers, and she is getting a message out there that changes the world. And that's what a real powerful comeback story is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think y'all will enjoy it. She's just a delight, and I really enjoyed getting to talk to her.
Yes. So we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we come back, we are going to show you the interview of Doe Zantamata.
I recently had a new client, and she suffered a mild traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
And she had no idea what had happened that caused her to be injured.
Gotcha.
But it turns out she had fallen into a pit at an oil change station. And it was 100% their fault.
Oh, wow.
But her injury made her not even understand
her injury, and
how
it makes me so frustrated because folks that suffer concussions or mild traumatic brain injuries, it's really difficult for them to know what
remember,
happened
right.
and to understand the difference in what their life was and what it is now because of the nature of their condition. And so the insurance companies need to recognize the full value of that.
Yeah, instead of taking advantage of that very unique situation.
It took her family telling her, you need to call an attorney. Her family coming with her to the appointment to say, these are the differences to get her in there, and now we're able to help her.
I love that.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are interviewing Doe Zantamata to tell her amazing comeback story. So stay tuned.
Hi, Doe. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, thank you so much.
I am so excited to have you on to have you talk about your book series, Happiness in Your Life, and your awesome Facebook page, Happiness in Your Life as well, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I know that you are a Florida State grad and you went through a life-changing experience when you had meningitis here at Florida State. So I'd love it if you'd start off by telling us what you were doing here in Tallahassee, what your life was looking like, and then give us the story about your meningitis experience.
All right. Well, way back a million years ago in, what year did I transfer? I went to Niagara University first for 2 years, and then Niagara University is about 3,000 students. So I actually wanted to go to a bigger school, and I looked all over the country and was really drawn to Florida State and Tallahassee. So I transferred in 1995, and then I ended up getting my biology degree, a Bachelor of Science in Biology. But in my last semester, the summer before my last semester, one day I was walking to school and I started to have a headache, and that wasn't not totally abnormal, but it was a little bit different of a headache. It felt more inside. So I walked to class, and then during class, it would start to get worse and worse. And as I'm walking home, every single time my heel hit the ground, it felt like something was tugging at my spine. And that I'd never felt before.
Oh, geez.
I was in biology with a focus on pre-med because I was either going to be a dentist or a doctor. So I started thinking I'm having this thing that every pre-med student has where they think they have some deadly illness. So I thought, oh my gosh, I think I have meningitis. No, I'm being silly. Maybe it's elephantiasis. No, I'm just being silly. I'm doing the thing. Everyone does this. So it was getting worse and worse and worse. And then when I got the sensitivity to light, when the light felt like the most annoying thing you've ever had happen in your life times 10, that's when I was pretty sure I had meningitis. So I got a friend to drive me to the hospital. And well, the doctor there, he thought that I had that medical student, biology student thing where they think they have everything too. So he was not very nice to me. He was like, do you make up a lot of evidence for attention? And I was like, no, I was in the hospital and I broke my arm when I was 12. And when I was born, that's it. But they kind of put me on the back burner and it was just so much pain. Meningitis is itis is inflammation of, and meninges are the 3 layers that cover the brain and spinal cord. So basically your entire body is itis. Every single nerve is in pain. That's why it's really bad. There's no room around the brain, around the spinal cord either for anything to expand, which is why it can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
So anyways, after about 8 hours or so, they ran the MRI, did 2 spinal taps and all that stuff. And I'm just in more pain than I ever even knew existed. And they said, you have meningitis, check me in the hospital. And that night, I don't know if it was my wild imagination. I'll have a disclaimer. If it was my wild imagination, if it was just my body wanting to detach from so much pain, or if it was a near-death experience, but it sure seemed like that last one. And this is what happened. I had a picture of myself coming up from my body. I haven't talked about this at all on my page. I wrote one post about it, just covering it briefly, but it looked, the most thing that I could say it looked like is the Northern Lights, where all the light beams, it's one big sky with light beams in it, but all the light beams are separate. And so you kind of become one of those light beams. And that's the whole deal about how it's all together, but it's still all separate. Mm-hmm. And as I felt like I was leaving, every negative emotion became a weight and they all just dropped away. So all sadness and anger and resentment, all that stuff is just dropping away. What that is the earth plane. In the earth plane, there's a duality. And then on the other side, it's just unity. Because it's unity, you cannot have any of the pain. No anger, no sadness, no itchy skin, no bruises, no bumps. So you can't have anything physical. And this was another disclaimer. This was my experience. I'm not saying that, oh, this is what it's going to be like for everybody. It's just, I can give you 100% honest account of what it was like for me. And yes. I kind of like it too. If you went to Machu Picchu and you told me all about the trip and the places you went and what you saw and the food you ate, if I went to Machu Picchu, there's going to be something similar, but it's not going to be the same trip. Maybe not at all. Even your experience with the other people there. So, okay. So then all the negative things fall away and you're just left with this pure light. The only thing that you're left with is love. The one sticky one that hangs on there is regret. And my regret in that moment, in that kind of pause, was that I really hadn't done anything with my life. I was in biology, pre-med. I didn't want to be. I wanted to do some kind of creative endeavor, but that was kind of the way that I thought to be a good person and a grown-up, that's what I should do. Yeah. I was pretty angry. I just felt like my life was a waste to that point. So I wanted to come back and I wanted to figure out why I was angry, why I was sad, because all that stuff just faded into nothing, and somehow share that. So I came back and maybe 13 years later was when I started the Facebook page. I journaled all up until then, but that's when I started Happiness in Your Life.
So you have this, what you call a near-death experience, and then immediately you think, I need to make a change in my life.
Yes. And that it was just so, it wasn't even like turning on the light. It was just like, wow, this is what it's about. I mean, because that morning I was worried if I was going to fail a math test, or I was mad because I scuffed my shoe. Just the most insignificant, stupid things could make me angry. And I was missing the whole thing, So that was coming away from it and seeing how much bigger and how temporary and how way off I was. And I thought, well, everyone I know around me was kind of the same. So there have to be a lot of other people that would really benefit from, having a more open view, even without knowing about having a near-death experience. Or like I said, I've never even mentioned it besides once, without even knowing where it's coming from, just a bigger picture overall. So in my books, it's not like everything's, and then on the other side, I mentioned nothing, I was like, well, about forgiveness, you actually do have a choice to set it down. And that does come directly from my experience, because it just fell away. It was things that I had held on to so strongly and thought they happened and they're real. So that's it. But then there is a choice to just set them down, and all of a sudden you get your whole life back. You don't have to carry stuff like that around. So,
well, I appreciate you sharing that experience with us. And we're going to go to break, but when we come back, I want to hear all about the books that you have written and all of the wisdom that you've been sharing with people since this happened.
All right, super. Thank you.
Wow, I am so excited about this interview. I love Doe. I love what she stands for. What was your big takeaway, Kimmy?
I love that she pivoted from doing something that she thought she should be doing to what kind of resonated with her. She wanted to be a creative person. She had that skill set, and then when she went through this, she said, I'm going to make this change and I'm going to start following that path. I think she gets more into that in the next segment, but I love that she made that choice. What about you? People
on their deathbeds, I've read this. People on their deathbeds, they never say, I wish I'd spent more time in the office.
Yeah.
I wish I'd spent more time pleasing other people. But what they do is they have regrets about things risks that they could have taken, challenges that they could have faced, things that they really wanted to do creatively or what they wanted to contribute to this world that they didn't. And so that was my big takeaway, because I know that I want to go through my life living it without regrets. When I'm on my deathbed, I want to say, I did everything that I possibly could do to make this life amazing, to contribute the most that I can. So I feel like that's what she got out of this near-death experience.
I also think it's interesting how she spent a lot of time journaling. I mean, she journaled for 13 years. Social media wasn't around when she went through all this. It's just she had all of that time that she put her thoughts down, and then she was able to really turn it into something great, which she talks about more in our next segment.
Which brings us to the next segment. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to come back and listen to segment 2 of Doe Zantamata's interview. Thank you.
You know what's funny? When law firms advertise that they'll give a free consultation, every consultation we give is free, unless we can get you a settlement based on your injuries.
Right.
Every time you give me a call, it's free. I want you to give me a call. We're not going to charge you unless we actually get you something for your case.
That's right. You don't have to pay me anything unless I win the case.
Right.
And on top of that, I'm going to pay for all of the court costs and the deposition costs and medical records costs and expert opinion costs. All of that's coming out of my pocket, and if we don't win the case, then we eat those costs at no charge to you.
Right. So we don't take a case we don't believe in because it's not in our interest.
Right.
And we don't minimize or devalue your case because that's also not in our interest. Right. So it makes everything fair.
If you have a lawyer on a contingency fee, you can hire the very best lawyer.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are interviewing Doe Zantamata, who's telling her amazing story about her near-death experience after having meningitis. So we're going to the second part of her interview right now, and then we're going to come back and wrap it up.
Welcome back. So after this experience that you had in the hospital when you were in college, what did you do next? Did you immediately start writing?
Well, that was, the revelation and the change can sometimes have a little bumps in the road there. And then I really do think you can have an absolute, I would call it a revelation, because everything changed, but nothing changed because I still had all my old habits, So after I was in the hospital, and then after I got out of the hospital, I decided I was going to finish my degree because I only had 1 semester left. I'd worked so hard for years and I didn't want to just trash it. So I finished the semester, but with no plans. I did not apply to any graduate school or anything. And I initially felt it was going to be videos, or at the time, I thought it was going to be movies. I wanted to communicate through movies, and I was always interested in movies. Didn't know how to do it. So I moved to Orlando, and I worked as a waitress at 2 places. And I also found an acting class locally, and I took acting on the 7th day of the week, and then did that for a year and then quit. I started doing some trade show modeling, which led to, I saw a flyer in the this one booth, and I thought, oh, who does that graphic design? This does have a point. I was like, who does that graphic design? And then he said, oh, my nephew does it. And I was like, I can do better than that. And he said, oh, you do graphic design? And I was like, yes, I do. So I learned how to do graphic design. And then the photography was really expensive for these flyers. So I learned how to do photography. And it was almost like a Slumdog Millionaire type of thing, where these things, I was learning skills along the way. I mean, my degree was in biology. So if I want to do anything with communicating or any kind of media or entertainment sort of thing, I had nothing, I could tell you chemistry. That was about it. So I ended up learning graphic design and photography. And then that ended up coming in when I did the Facebook page, which Facebook wasn't even invented back then. So I was learning these skills and moving in the direction of doing my work, not knowing where and when it was going to be. But now on the Facebook page, I started in 2011, and I hadn't put out the first book yet, but I knew how to do graphic design. So I started doing the posts and the writing. And then even for the book covers, once I started doing those, I design all my book covers and I do all the formatting. So it's really a self-contained one-person unit. As far as the videos, I did do some short movies. And again, the technology, it took a while to do movies, and it was a lot of expense. So that was put on hold for about 10 years, and I just focused on the books. But now I've started to do videos again, now that we have such great access to technology, and you can do through your phone that you needed, 50 people and $100,000 to do 20 years ago.
It's very different, isn't it? Well, Tell us, what are you writing about in your books?
Oh, boy. Well, the first one is the overview. It's a 12-book series. And truth be told, it was going to be one book. I didn't think I knew that much. So it was going to be one book called Happiness in Your Life with 12 chapters. And the first chapter was karma. The second one is intuition. The third one is forgiveness. And it goes on through the 12. Well, I started writing the karma chapter, and it ended up being 144 pages. So I said, okay, now it's 12 short books on happiness. So that's how I came up with this book set. But so far, 5 of the books are out, and they each have a one-word title. Okay, so
these are the books?
Yes, this one is appreciation. And there you go, forgiveness. I do have them in hardcover and then ebooks as well. Intuition, trust. This one was a surprise one, which if we have time, I'll tell you about that one too. But each of them, they just have a one-word title because it was going to be chapters. They each have a one-word title, but it's kind of everything you may not know, but it's very important about that one word, that one topic. Okay. So trust has about trusting yourself, trusting other people, betrayal, repairing trust, and all that. And I was going to do them one book a year for 12 years. So now it's been about 10 years, and I've got 5 out, plus the bonus book, Improve Your Life in 80 Days. But
that's great.
Certain things have happened that if I would have had, say, the forgiveness book, if I would have had that supposedly on schedule, it would have been out in 2013. But certain things happened in 2014, 2015 that ended up in the book. So the timing ends up being not what I planned, but a lot better in the long run. So I'm kind of trusting the timing on the books and when they're going to come out.
That's wonderful. So if our viewers want to get a copy of your book, where do they go to get it?
They're on Amazon. And then they're also, if they go to the Facebook page or on Instagram, Happiness in Your Life, or the website, happinessinyourlife.com as well, then they can get them. BarnesandNoble.com. The Quotes About Living is a book of quotes from all the books, even the ones that aren't out yet. That's at Barnes and Noble bookstores in a special edition.
So tell me, where did you get the inspiration for all of these books?
From that fateful day in August of 1998.
That's amazing. So it kind of changed.
Opened the door, and I thought everything about. Well, my big thing was mostly anger. And then when you take apart anger, what is it? Well, it's a lack of trust. And that's because trust has been broken. And you're not listening to yourself, which is the intuition. A lot of people say they get frustrated with their intuition, but really they get frustrated with themselves because they didn't listen to their intuition. The intuition was right all along. Karma was something I totally didn't think that would be of interest to me, but I came across something that was the 12 laws of karma, which are thousands of years old. And so I looked at those and I thought they were just genius. And I was thinking, why doesn't everybody know about these? And so the Karma book is where I write kind of a modern day application of these ancient 12 laws of karma. And it's just that alone has changed so much in my own life, being able to see things and detach and see, oh, that's actually me and my own garbage versus that's them and their garbage. And it just helps so much in a separation as well as your own self-healing.
Well, I got to tell you, I am so excited to go online and order a copy of your books, and I can't wait to read them and then hopefully have another conversation with you one day about it.
Thank you so much. I would love to. I'd absolutely love you. I can tell you all about Improve Your Life in 80 Days in the next one.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Wow. I got to tell you, Doe is a perfect example of a comeback story that it was. So here she is going through life, and she's got sadness, she's got anger, she doesn't know why she's sad and angry, and then she has an experience, a near-death experience, a spiritual awakening, and that changes everything for her, and she realizes that all of that pain and all of that anger and all of the resentment, everything that she's holding on to, she can just let it go.
Yeah.
She can just let it go, and it completely 100% changed her life. But not only that, she decided to share that knowledge with the rest of the world, which is why she's written all the books. That is the essence of a good comeback story, is that you go through the painful experience, you develop the wisdom, and then you share it with the world.
Absolutely. And Doe and I talked for a little while after the interview, and I was asking her about her other book, Improve Your Life in 80 Days. And so she basically had another mini comeback story within her story, which is basically she was going through a rough time and she was kind of down in the dumps, and she wanted to find a way to kind of pull herself out of that, and so she started writing again, and she ended up writing Improve Your Life in 80 Days. And there's a page a day, and each page kind of gives you a direction on what to do that day, or an insight for that day, or a way to think that day. And so people who are kind of down in the dumps can read that for 80 days and hopefully have the tools to pull themselves out of it. So
I love it.
It's not that everything's peachy now. I mean, she still has the ups and downs of life, but when she has the downs, she's still using her skills to get better and to help other people along the way. I think it's awesome.
If you're feeling sad, this is a tip. This is a great tip. If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling down, you're feeling angry about something, do something kind for somebody else. That will lift you up out of that sadness in no time.
Absolutely.
Little something that I've learned that I think Doe also learned too. So we're going to go to a commercial, then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the best takeaways we got from Doe's interview.
I went to lunch with one of my former clients the other day, and she's doing great. She took the money from her settlement and she started her own company buying and selling vehicles, which is really cool because she was in a car crash and then needed a new vehicle. And so now she's able to help other folks out.
Most of our clients, they find that one of the most frustrating things is the dealing with the vehicle.
Oh, well, losing your car can totally disrupt your life.
You can lose your livelihood over it. If you can't get to work, or you know, what's the worst thing with our clients is we're just trying to help them get well. But if they can't get to the health care that they need, you know, that's just another setback.
One of the typical things about a comeback story is you take the pain and the struggles and the challenges that you've been through, and you use that as the fire that kind of motivates you to do something good for other people. Yeah. And so I love that, because now our client did exactly that, like literally to the T.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we interviewed today's Doe Zantamata, who had suffered from meningitis and ended up having a near-death experience, which changed her life. And now she's written 5 books that are really changing the world. She's got 4 million Facebook followers, and she's really doing everything she can to change the world. Kimmy, what was your biggest takeaway from Doe's interview?
I love how in the beginning she talks about when she had the experience that all the negativity, everything just dropped away from her. So it reminds you, you know, when you're on your deathbed, what's going to matter to you?
Yes.
It's just that reminder. I know it's kind of cliche, people talk about think
Yeah.
about on your deathbed, but it's really a good reminder to sit down and think about, what am I holding on to that's not serving me, that's not serving other people? What about you?
Literally 99.9% of the things that we worry about, that frustrate us throughout the day, that our minds are spinning about, it means a month from now they mean absolutely nothing.
Oh yeah, but they're affecting your experience in real time.
They're affecting your experience a lot of times, all day, every day,
Yeah.
which brings me to another point that Doe made, which is this: even though she had this awakening experience, even though she said she could feel all the negativity falling away, and she knew that it was a choice to allow the negativity to fall away, after the experience, she still had the old thought habits that she had to work on. It's not a one-time deal where all of a sudden you have an awakening and then you're good.
Yeah.
You still have to change yourself from the inside out. So I feel like that was a really valuable point that she made.
Absolutely. So she has the Happiness in Your Life book series, but also you can find her on social media under the Happiness in Your Life tagline. And then also she has that other book, which was Improve Your Life in 80 Days. I'm really excited to read that one because everybody gets down and needs a little pickup every once in a while.
The other one really, I think, important point that she made is that what she learned in her near-death experience is that the pain that we experience in life is temporary, but the wisdom that we gain is eternal. And so she said she learned that it was so much bigger than just this life and these little things that we worry about, these tiny little details of life that consume our thoughts and consume our energy, and that the wisdom we gain from the challenges we face lasts forever. I think that is so important.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been a great episode. I hope to see you the next time when we bring you more comeback stories from around the world.
And you know what the insurance company offered him? $5,000.
Really?
He's
That was the initial offer.
he's completely blind, and they offer him $5,000. Ask him to sign a release.
To a lot of people, especially when they're hurting and when they're down and when they're vulnerable, $5,000 is a life-changing amount of
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
And they're not looking at the value of what has been lost. They're not looking at what it would take to make that person whole, which is our job.
Yeah.
That's our job. Their job isn't. Their job is to save the insurance company money.
Right.
And they look at this person and they go, I bet $5,000 would get your full attention. And they come in and they dangle it with
Yeah.
a settlement release, and then once you sign it, you're done. You can't come back to us and ask us to wave a magic wand and make that go away. That can't go away.
My client didn't accept the $5,000. We took him all the way to trial. We got a $5 million verdict.